Do not believe in punishing people for being on time. You have all showed up exactly or slightly before the dot of 7 according to universal cell phone time. So I would like to start because the sooner we start, the sooner what happens? We all get to go home. The party is not here, but whatever you want to do on your own time off this property is good. All right. So here we are at a special church meeting, something that does not happen all that frequently, but there are two important things that are going to happen. The first is the actual formal motion to be made by the chair of the parish committee, and we'll follow exact process through that because it is a formal motion with a formal vote. Voting is restricted to people who are members of the church, signed the book, gotten the flower, the whole thing, and then we'll all applaud and cheer, and then we'll move on to the second item, which is not, hey John, which is not going to be a formal vote. I will not use the V word because it's open to everybody. Because the Opening Doors team wants to have input from as many people as possible. So we're actually going to have paper ballots, anonymous paper ballots. We will not dust them for prints. For the people who are remote, Sarah Kay has worked her wizardry and come up with a way where these folks can actually indicate yes or no anonymously and total it all up. So that we'll get as many people's input as possible because we all recognize it is a Monday night, it's a work night for people who work. And so we want to get that input with less effort. So that's how that's going to work. As I mentioned yesterday, there will be an intermission, an intermezzo, during which time Gina Halstead as chair of the parish committee, I as church moderator, and Jeannie Hardcastle as secretary, and probably at least one minister to pray over us while we're doing this, will give us time to count all the votes. We will come out and announce that for the first thing, because that is a formal vote. Okay. Any questions? Cricket. Hearing none, thank you very much. So what I'd like to do now that we are well past 7, we've given the slow people. I mean, Nancy Rockwell, if you remember her, was quite fond of saying, we are a last-minute congregation. So we're here. And Nate, would you say something appropriately ministerial and summoning a state of grace?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the time to be here. Don't we have a great moderator? Thank you, Gus. So we're looking forward to the events of this evening, and I'll just invite us now into a spirit of prayer, just a moment to center ourselves, to fully arrive in this time and place, to let go of whatever was stressing us out during today, and to do our best to be present here and now.
And will you join me in a spirit of prayer? As I was driving here, the words of the old hymn came to me. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. God of many names, God of many time periods and moments, God of many iterations of meaningful community carrying forth the spirit of our spiritual forebears. We understand that the church is not a building. It is a people gathered and a spirit that continues. And at the same time, we understand that we have been gifted with historic sacred spaces to steward and sustain and imagine for the next generations of seekers and justice makers and peace bearers. And we ask that we would be patient with one another, that we would lead with grace and curiosity and with love, knowing that just as Jesus reminded us that when 2 or 3 of us are gathered, something else is here too, so in the congregational way, we trust, we believe that when all of us gather together, there is some otherness present, something manifest that can find something greater, more beautiful, more true than we could have gotten to on our own. And so in that spirit, we say thank you, and we welcome the work before us. Amen.
All right. We have a motion to be made for the meeting, and Gina Halstead, chair of the parish committee, will make that motion for us, and we'll get it up on the screen. Okay. Mrs. Halstead.
Mr. Moderator, moved that the congregation accept the resignation of John Kruswicki as officer and treasurer of the First Parish in Lincoln, effective December 1st, 2025, and approve the parish committee's nomination of Chris Andresiak to assume the responsibilities of treasurer effective December 1st, 2025, for the remainder of the church year.
We have a motion and a second. I bet we have some discussion.
While we're getting the motion on the slide projector, may I please ask John Kruswicki to come forward? And while John is working his way up here, I'd like to thank Chris Andresiak, and to clarify that Chris Andresiak has stepped up to take over the role of treasurer for the remainder of our church year. So that will be from December 1st, 2025 through the end of June 2026. That is what this vote will be for. That's one of the things this vote will be for. Additionally, I want you to know that Chris has expressed willingness to sign up for and serve as officer and treasurer for a full term beginning in our next calendar year in 2026. So that would be a 3-year term. And the congregation would be voting for that at our next annual meeting in June. Okay? All right. Now, John Kruswicki has served in many roles at First Parish over the years. And honestly, John, I don't know them all. But I am aware that you have frequently surprised us with extraordinary baked goods or other yummy treats, which he has prepared for us for hospitality or meetings or other gatherings. Besides serving up incredible food, John has also served as the First Parish treasurer for over 6 years. And in that role, he prepares the proposed annual budget, compiling input from all parties of our church before applying reasonable assumptions for income and expenses. He reviews the proposed budget with the parish committee over the course of a couple of months before presenting to the congregation for approval at the annual meeting. Then at every single parish committee meeting, whether he is in San Diego or someplace else, or here in Lincoln, He presents the parish committee with an updated profit and loss statement and balance sheet, along with an analysis of how we're doing. Very clearly, for those of us who don't understand these things, he gives a sense of how we're tracking to the typical patterns of payment and of giving, and what we should be paying attention to. As he puts it, John doesn't produce the beans, he doesn't count the beans, but John analyzes the beans very, very well. So John, as you and Mary head off to California, we hope that you may focus more on analyzing your golf strokes than beans. You know, that short game can be tricky. Yes. But if you get nostalgic for some beans, I hope your taste buds will enjoy analyzing these chocolate-covered espresso beans from one of my favorite chocolatiers.
And a pleasure, and I do want to cite two people, because when I started the journey as treasurer, I was surprised as hell that anybody wanted me to do that. So I leaned very heavily on two former treasurers, Chris Andresiak and Gary Taylor. And their help was invaluable over the time. We set up all the finance committee meetings so that was right before the parish committee meeting, so that if I had made any stupid mistakes, they caught them, and we were ready to go to the parish committee all along. Thank you all very much. We'll miss you. Mary and I have said this. This is what we're going to miss the most.
John, thank you. We'll miss you, and we wish you and Mary all the best.
And I just want to say, on behalf of the music committee, Mary Briggs has been an absolutely invaluable leader and guiding light of the music committee for so long. I can't even remember when it started. It certainly is long before I was involved with it. With the two music directors we hired, she knew all the details we needed to make that happen, and she explored how rehabbing the organ and so many other things. So thank you for your enthusiasm over the years and your invaluable expertise.
It is just neat to watch what's going on. As Yogi Berra is alleged to have said, it's amazing what you can see by looking. Every Sunday, where does John Kraswicki sit? Right there. Why does he sit there? So he can watch his wife sing. If you are a spouse who has a spouse in the choir, that seat is now available. And John has set a precedent, a benchmark against which you will be measured by your spouse. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. This is a two-part item which only gets one vote. And so it's a combination. It's a twofer. We accept John's resignation, sadly, but understanding. And we also accept the nomination of Chris Andresiak to fill John's position for the remainder of this church here. Are we clear on what we're voting on? Okay. All those in favor of what I have just said, please so signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Ms. Hardcastle will report that the vote passes unanimously. Okay, great. Congratulations. Okay, that's the end of the formal part of the meeting. Now we're shifting gears. We're going into a sense of the congregation. a temperature check. As I said yesterday, in 1746, when the bylaws were set out, I don't think they thought of temperature checks because almost nobody had a thermometer. But still, they knew what was going on. So now we have sort of expanded that 1746 ethic to get information from as many people in the congregation as possible about something that's really important. So I will ask if there is a motion to be made at this point. Mrs. Andresiak. Ms. Lloyd.
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much. The motion is, should the Opening Doors team continue working on a project to renovate the parish house and surrounding site, as described in a minute this evening, recognizing that community feedback and fundraising results may lead to project modifications, and with the understanding that another congregational vote will be taken before determining the final project direction.
And then there's the language about what yes and no means, but that's actually not part of the formal motion, so I think
Correct.
we can just make the motion.
So that is our motion. We so move.
I heard a second.
Okay, there is discussion, please.
Thank you all for being here tonight. This is amazing. Thank you for all the engagement that you have invested in this project that Sarah and I have been so privileged to shepherd with you. We want to thank all the people that you see here. You might think it was just the two of us, but in fact it wasn't. We had an amazing team, a visioning team, a design advisory team who met weekly since February, since we started this whole thing, and an Opening Doors for Justice team. I want to thank each and every one of those members, and I would like to invite all of you to join me in thanking this incredible team. But our thanks also go to each and every one of you. So many of you have been at our presentations throughout the spring and summer in small groups, giving us feedback, emails, calls. We really appreciate all the input. We trust that you trust that we have done our best to listen and to modify this project as we've gone along. And tonight we are presenting to you, for some of you, once again, what we have come to at this point, our right-sized design that is still in the conceptual form, and we will walk you through that a little bit and tell you how we got here, go over the conceptual design, the landscape, talk with you, I know you're holding your breath, about the financials, and we also want to hear from our ministers later tonight, their perspective, and of course, since this is a discussion part of a motion, hearing your discussion. I won't read this to you. I trust you can all see our vision, the Opening Doors vision, from which we have been working all the way through.
Oh, do you want to say more? Sorry.
No, that's good. I mean, give people a moment to read that.
Speed read, please.
You know what, you've heard it. We don't want to say too many words over and over again because so many of you have heard it, but we have a vision and we hope we've been working towards that.
And just to remind everyone where this project came from, it grew out of a strategic planning effort that was begun actually by the transition team under Gina Halstead's leadership, which grew into a whole strategic planning effort over a couple of years. And then in the spring of 2024, we started asking questions seriously about what kinds of investments we would need to make to really deepen for our first parish in terms of reputation, engagement, and impact. We've gone through a whole process with that. And in June, we launched, June of just 2024. So I know you feel like you've been listening to us for a long time, but it's really only been 15 months. So a campaign that would replenish our depleted capital reserve that we need to make the investments to keep our buildings running. And also to figure out what is the scope and parameters of a campaign that would help us deepen in reputation, impact, and membership. So in November 2024, we shared with you the discernment to really focus on the parish house and its surrounding grounds. In February 2025, we gathered input through an Imagine This session up in the parish house. Great event. In April, we launched our Opening Doors for Justice inquiry. In May of 2025, we brought an initial design to the congregation for a community design workshop. We socialized that concept over the summer of 2025 in over a dozen small group sessions. Many of you saw that. And those who saw it offered great feedback, to which we have responded. And with faith in our future, our process all along, what are we doing here as the Opening Doors team? We are asking, what is needed to steward the physical assets we inherited from our ancestors? How can the parish house foster intergenerational community, support artistic expression, and nurture the next generation of moral leaders and spiritual seekers? And how can this project open the doors of our campus and community to serve our call for justice? That's what we've been discerning.
And we took justice, asked some great questions, focused our attention on immigrant justice, and the thing that was amazing to us is it did exactly what we hoped it would do. It started conversations, it started relationships, and even better, it has started our action. Our terrific team, their names are listed here, and I want to again thank that team who met regularly to do outreach, build relationships, and come up with ideas. We are taking action right away. We are meeting this moment right now, not through Opening Doors, but transferring it to the Racial Justice Associates. And I want to thank Racial Justice Associates for championing this work. So we are meeting the moment, and now Opening Doors is making a pivot. And our pivot is to focus on how will we green our buildings through the entire process of building and all our materiality. I forgot that word. Okay, but that's what we're doing.
And in terms of the discernment around the parish house, we had a visioning team. They gathered space requirements from the staff, congregation, FCC, YPC, and music committees. Those are the big users of the parish house space. It created all kinds of intensive documents around exactly what spaces are used for what and why and where and when. The facilities committee, because we really wanted to understand, what do we need this space to do? What are we using it for? The facilities committee commissioned a study of our building and our systems to make sure we knew what those needed as we raise funds. A design advisory team, all those folks, gosh, God bless them, met weekly with the selected architect, Marian Thompson, to develop a concept design that met all of those requirements. It's Tetris, and there's a lot of, and then the congregation, as you know, provided feedback on that initial design. And then based on that feedback, we have come to what we are calling affectionately a right-sized design that really is just as transformative as our original concept, but it is smaller, it is greener, and it gets there mainly by more space sharing, which we heard loud and clear was something we wanted to do. Kit, Nate, Laura, Miranda, and the visioning and design advisory teams agreed that this is the concept we should advance to the congregation. Because let's remember, this project is your project. So if you affirm our direction tonight, we will initiate formal fundraising for this right-sized concept and continue to adjust the project scope based on fundraising results and feedback. Nothing is set in stone. We continue in discernment. So those requirements, and I'm just to sort of walk through this a bit, some of us spend a lot of time up at that parish house. Some of us are barely up there at all. But what is that parish house doing for us? It is our home for religious exploration. We need it to function as a welcoming space. And I should just say, really what this project is about is allowing our building to do better all the things that it's sort of doing now. We want staff offices that welcome and inspire, not just for our staff who nurture us and inspire us, but for those folks who might arrive seeking counsel for a wedding, seeking solace in grief. All of us are using those spaces. We want large space for worship. As you know, we are worshiping up that hill a number of times a year. We are piloting different worship experiences because we can worship in a different way in that space than we can in this space. It invites different people into spiritual conversation with us. Lectures, retreats, celebrations of life, and in order to do that sort of in a up-to-date way, if you've gone to the talent show or whatever, you know that we could benefit from some up-to-date acoustics, lighting. We could really have some good Wi-Fi so that we could, connect with our remote partners. It would be good to have better technology so that we could host events for the wider town and wider community. We want foyer and fellowship space adjacent to that worship and performance space that flows easily, that is adequate for the size of the gathering. We want the flexibility to retain community partners and tenants. These community partners expand our reach into the community. They help us utilize our space. The reality is our programs use that space precious few hours a week. And if we are going to pay insurance and light and heat and all the things on these buildings, it's awfully good to have more utilization. And they also provide income. What's wrong with that? Then we also, the playground has been on the list of things we need to deal with for many years, waiting in the wings for us to undertake a capital project. We need that for our RE program. We need that because that's a vital way that we can welcome the community into our environment. We want handicap accessible and ADA compliant restrooms, handicap accessible building. I was so moved when I had a conversation with Beehive, who's our tenant up on the 3rd floor, who was asked to host a birthday party. And they had to decline because one of the children uses a wheelchair. We also want, of course, technology, as I've mentioned, for remote participation. And we want greening, greening, greening. Let's do this in alignment with our values. And oh, by the way, it would be really great if we could use that building those 3 months of the year when right now we're all just dripping in sweat because it's too hot. Air conditioning.
So all those requirements, we took to our chosen architect, and we brought these principles for Mary Ann Thompson to work with. This is what we were trying to do, and we want to show you now what the result is of meeting those requirements.
So this, to orient you, you are looking at a floor plan. I'm sorry, we will also get to some lovely renderings of the exterior and some images of the interior of the building, but we're going to start with the floor plan. To orient you, this is the stage and the auditorium, and over here is our office wing. You typically come in from the north, the playground is down here, where we are is down here, okay? And what this building project is really focused on, I want to say, is 3 zones. The first is taking our office wing and meeting space wing and making it do what it does a heck of a lot better than it does right now. What the plan shows is that those bathrooms, we all know that that's what we see when we walk in, right? The bathrooms, we actually make 2 ADA compliant bathrooms plus a 3rd bathroom, and those fit into this wing over here. We keep the 2 office spaces that we have in that wing, sort of a nice living room style office space and a conference table style office space because different groups use different kind of functions. We move our administrator right into the corner with windows so that she can see folks coming and going and welcome them. We actually add an office space, which would allow Kit and Nate to each have their own offices, or room to grow as we add staff, Or it could be a additional meeting space, or it could house RE, or
Are these flexible spaces?
all flexible spaces. The second piece is looking at the existing beautiful Richardsonian 1880 structure with the auditorium and stage, and again, asking it to do what it does better. One key element is we locate an elevator that connects that all the way that upper floor where our RE program and Beehive are, all the way down to the playground level. Now those who know the space well, notice that that's moving into the kitchen. To keep the kitchen whole, we move that kitchen a little bit into the space that we affectionately call Donaldson Room. I said yesterday that the Donaldson Room is so flexible that it seems to almost have no identity. Is it a hallway, a meeting room, or RE, what? Anyway, so I want to say that the kitchen, we don't know whether we will have a commercial kitchen or a non-commercial. There's a whole lot of work yet to be done. We're still early. The Donaldson Room gets a clarified identity as a flexible meeting space, flexible use space. We locate a corridor to sort of create a nice zone there, and then we maintain the beautiful styrofoam room. And all of these spaces, I should say, as we address them, they get updated with storage. They get updated to those kinds of things that actually make them work as flexible spaces. That's one of our obstacles right now. The auditorium and stage maintain their existing footprint with all those upgrades we talked about to make them work better. And you notice we've lost the Donaldson Room as that pre-foyer space. Do you need hearing? We have the things. Would you like those? Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm very distracted by my front row. All right. So the Donaldson Room is no longer one of the things. Yeah, that's not better. Thank you. One of the things that the Donaldson Room does that it can't do in this format is those larger gatherings. So we open a little doorway here by removing the organ and having connection, and then we create a new space where magic can happen. This is a nice gathering and flexible use space, larger than our current Donaldson Room, with beautiful flow from the auditorium, connecting the different pieces. We call it a connector, we call it a hub. It allows the different functions of the building to come together and people to flow through. What am I missing? Am I missing something?
I think you're good.
Okay.
I think you're good. They're flexible spaces.
They're flexible.
And I just want to acknowledge that, people who've been coming here for a long time, we have affection for things the way they are. And we do too. The team does too. And what we're hoping is that all these things will still function well, will still welcome people during the various milestones of their lives and the accent places of our church here. And as Sarah keeps saying, we'll do it better.
So just to look at sort of the circulation, and because one of the challenges of the current building is, like, how do you get from A to B, and how do you come in, and how do you get out? And there's a lot of feeling of friction, I think, as you're trying to navigate the space. So we continue to have the main entrance from the north, a more gracious version, and Rosemary will take us through that in a bit. We continue to have an east entrance for those times when we are hosting large groups and whatnot. You can get in, you can come into the auditorium a few different places. Again, there's sight lines from that administrator to that east entrance. And something we don't have right now is an accessible access from the south. So if you are somebody who doesn't move super easily, getting into this building from parking down below or from worship down below is very difficult because you have to hike up a small mountain called Bedford Road. What this does, and we'll show you the landscape plan, is provide a ground level access into the space and an elevator so that you can reach the main level in an accessible way. Just to raise our second floor and our upstairs floor where Beehive is and our ground floor where Magic Garden is, We aren't talking about major changes to those spaces. We are adding the elevator, we are adding storage, and really what we are centering in both those floors is making sure that that space works well for our RE program and can accommodate our tenants. There are some, pieces that we're working on. This is conceptual. We're trying to claim some better classroom space upstairs. But the main thing we just want to raise is we hear the need to prioritize our RE program and do so in a way that continues to welcome our tenants. Same thing on the ground floor. Magic Garden is our tenant. Beehive, I think you all know, it's a community art program. It's bringing in kids of different ages into our building. It's a super vibrant partnership. You see the kids coming in and out. Some of our members, Melissa Deck, for example, found us through Beehive. And then the ground floor, we have Magic Garden, which is care for very young children. Again, it's a beautiful community partnership. We are offering them space that is not available anywhere else in Lincoln, and that is allowing the Lincoln's only year-round, full-day child care program to function. Okay, Rosemary.
So very briefly, the north entrance. This is a rendering. This is the piece we're focusing on with the circle inside the floor plan. This is what it looks like from outside. And what you can see is we are, well, it may be hard to see, so I'll point out, an accessible entrance, a regraded ramp, stairs that are not so steep, but have a turn to them and are a little more shallow, including a resting space up a couple of steps, a turn, and a couple more steps. You can't see it from this version, but there's also an overhang over the front door, so that as you're loading stuff up or out or waiting to get the door answered, you're not standing in inclement weather. I would just point out that we would be working on having some exterior upgrades. This 1952 wing is cinder block, and we are looking to reshingle it so that it has an architectural coherency. And this is giving us an amazing opportunity to do something that we've wanted to do for a long time, which is to improve our HVAC, or add air conditioning, which has been prohibitive. It wasn't a good idea to do it up until now unless we also insulated this wing and put in energy efficient windows. So I just want to point that out. Okay. A little architectural sketch for those of us who read things differently. I like the pretty pictures. I like this picture. It gives you that sense again. The little dots indicate the shingles on the Richardsonian building, and we would be adding that here. You could see that gabled space from the north end. You'll also see it in a minute from the south end. We'll be adding additional solar panels here. And at the west end of the building, we'll be claiming the views to the fields to the west in this addition of a lot of glass at this end. We'll also be mindful that that's a heat gain area, so they'll be using louvers in order to dissipate the heat gain in the hot summer months and keeping it in the cooler ones.
And just to be clear, that space is ministerial office and pastoral care. That's what's happening in that beautiful space.
Yeah. So this is the transformative thing that we hope that you will start to get your minds around and also be excited about. As you enter in that north entrance, as Sarah mentioned before, you would come right up against this glass. You pass here. This would be Sylvia's office. It's glassed in so that she sees you, you see her, you get directions. It's no more sort of a dark center space where you don't know where you're going. And you're welcomed immediately by the views to the south and the west with this beautiful gable that we'll see as we pop up to the next slide. Enter further into the room. This is a louvered gabled space. This is a gathering space. There are open stairs that would take you to the lower level. Glass doors that would open and close, meaning keeping it a separate room or opening it to the auditorium space, allowing for some potential overflow seating. You know how tight it gets in there sometimes. Okay.
And then you've gone into the building. You've had a wonderful time. You've convened with your fellow travelers. And now you've walked outside and you're in the South. And you look back and you say, from whence have I come? And you see, again, this is the view from the south of that same gabled structure. You see, again, louvers to minimize the heat gain. And this, what I want to emphasize is this community room that we're talking about is really quite modest in terms of its footprint, but its impact in terms of how we can use the space and the clarity it brings to our use is transformational. The architecture, as Rosemary had mentioned, is meant to drive some coherence. In this particular case, the echo and paying homage to the original building was something that the Historic District Commission particularly appreciated and recognized when we brought this concept to them. It also, as we mentioned earlier, clarifies that south entrance. If you're coming up to that building from here, like where, what? Do I go into the Magic Garden space and navigate the paintbrushes, or where do I go? So, here's the pretty picture version of that south entrance. Again, you see this form. There's some loose landscaping because their landscaping is a very important part of what this project involves. Again, just to highlight, Rosemary mentioned the solar panels, additional solar panels, and maintaining the solar panels that are already on the building. And just to take a moment to say that there's lots of work that has been done around greening FPL. And one of the opportunities of this campaign is to reopen and relift up that work that was done. The landscape plan, all of this material is conceptual, but what we see here is this beautiful opportunity to travel at a fairly level grade from Bedford Road, from the sanctuary, through an extended version of the South Lawn, down to the lower level where you can enter. Right now, this is our playground area. So it stays very similar in size, but we gain this extra space. If you sort of visualize what the grade is of that south lawn, it's super, super steep at the top, and then it comes down and it kind of softens. And this softened area, we imagine, could be a lovely place for where's Sarah? That maypole. It could be a space where maybe the choir gathers to serenade us. And we're sitting up here in this sort of natural amphitheater. Lots of ideas. Just ideas.
Activating the south lawn.
Activating the
is how we think
south
about
lawn.
it. And landscaping it in such a way that it looks more welcoming to the entire town. I mean, I think of our sanctuary space, our parish house space as being a gateway to Lincoln. And right now, although we do try and pay good attention and take good care of it, this is an opportunity to lift it up to a new level.
Exactly, and I think campus and town connection was a key piece of what we wanted to create with this project, still want to create with this project. And the opportunity to create this accessible access from parking in other places, whether it's for us or others who might be using the auditorium space, encouraging those intergenerational encounters, and for us and for the wider community in these outdoor spaces, and for our tenants as well. And it's a playground right in the center of Lincoln with, it's one of the most beautiful places in Lincoln. Tucker has a photograph of coming down the hill of the sunset. I mean, it's kind of a magic spot. And what better thing than to give that to children? So, we're going to invite up the reverends to talk a little bit.
Thank you both. And let's just give a special thanks to Sarah and
Quick
Rosie.
round of applause. I've heard much of this before, but I learned several new things tonight, so thank you both.
For your dedication, your own flexibility, and your vision to help steward and usher this process has been inspiring. So Nate and I wanted to to enter into the sort of zoomed back a little bit. Why now? Why this project? Why is this not just, sure, a nice thing to do, but why is it really needed, we believe, for this moment in the life of the First Parish in Lincoln and the opportunity that we find ourselves in together as a community? So I'll start with just a little story, which is that the first church that I served as a recent divinity school grad was actually a historic congregation that had become something of a flagship congregation in the city of Des Moines, Iowa, because it was a merger of two churches, two congregations who themselves were trucking along but decided that they might be stronger together. Sound familiar? And this congregation had gone through many different iterations and peaks and valleys and transformations. But when I found myself joining the staff, they had recently completed a capital campaign and revitalized their building. And of course, the building was not why I was drawn there to learn about ministry. It was a fellowship program. But there was a vitality to the congregation, and they were constantly welcoming people into their doors and turning their community out to serve the wider community. And I remember speaking with the senior minister who was near retirement. He'd been there about 21 years. And he said, at some point, I looked at the building and I thought, all right, this is going to be one of the projects that's going to be part of my ministry. And he said, at first I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to deal with this building. And then he said, at some point, I had a reframe that I got to be there at this opportune moment to make an impact and to change the impact of this historic community of people. And I will admit that when Nate and I, a little over, maybe it was almost 3.5 years ago, I'm looking at the chairs of the search committee right now, called the two of us in for our interview, and part of one of the interviews was a tour of the campus, and we were very intrigued by this historic background of two congregations coming together, embracing differences to create something. And we were seeing the campus and intrigued by the bringing together of the two buildings. And when we entered in the parish house, I do remember we taking a breath and going, ooh, I think this might be part of the project of some part of our ministry. And I think that I may be walking in the footsteps of my mentor. You know, I have been converted to really, truly feeling, wow, what an incredible opportunity we have to find ourselves with you all at this moment. And I want to say that I want to echo what Rosemary and Sarah said. There is a lot to love about that building. It has incredible character. It has a rich history. And I was going through clothing the other day, that some clothing now has gone through all three of my children. And I will say certain clothing, I look at the condition in a gracious way of saying it is very well loved. And I will say, our dear parish house is well loved. It has been well loved. It has served us for many generations. And I will also say that while we are living into our vision and we are growing and we are thriving as a community, there are things that have already been lifted up tonight that are an obstacle. I would say probably daily to sort of the next flourishing, I think, of this community. And we have an opportunity to bring some coherence to the campus, to decongest what is the ministry center, and to move from an environmental liability to an example of sustainability. And just to embrace that the church is not a museum, and it's not an attic storage space, but it's a living, breathing home for the people who are here. And I think these teams of the visioning team, the architectural design team, it's been really inspiring to see the ways in which there are people who've been part of this church for generations and people who have just found their lives transformed in the last year, working together to usher in what we think a next chapter might look like. So imagine what we can do together.
we have the privilege, right, at the First Parish of Lincoln of being part of a thriving community that touches the lives of people who are in their 90s to someone who was just born last week who came to the children's choir rehearsal with his older sisters.
He was 5 days old, and he was sitting right where you're sitting, in his mother's arms, yes.
You all know that, that's why you're here tonight. But we have the privilege, too, of being a church that is at an opportune moment. We are in this season of growth. I've said these numbers before, a few different contexts. I'm going to repeat them again tonight. In the last 3.5 years, we've had 70 people join our church. We've had 25 new families with children start participating in the life of the First Parish. We're up now to 201 pledging units, and last spring we raised a record number in terms of our stewardship raise. If you look at our attendance and if you look at our membership growth, the church has grown by 25% in the last 3.5 years. And so part of that privilege and what goes with that privilege, right, is a sense of responsibility, a sense of stewardship. As people part of a church that's 278 years old, we stand on the shoulders of so many other people, right? When you think about this amazing sanctuary, when you think about the parish house up the hill, when you think about the endowment that we're fortunate enough to work with. And so I think we have this moment now to look ahead, which not every church has, right? We talk to colleagues, we know other friends in other churches. Some churches are doing well, they've bounced back from COVID. A lot of congregations are not in the privileged position we are now to be able to dream, to look ahead and say, where do we want to be in 10 years? Where do we want to be in 25, 50 years? That's what this project is about. And really that opportunity to do what our forebears have done for us, that have led us to have inspiring, meaningful connections. I think that's what we're looking ahead for. Anything else to add?
I just want to say, hopefully, if we choose to move forward tonight as a community, just to reiterate that we're not checking off each detail of each interior. There will be time for feedback, for modifications, for input, and engagement, and we hope there will be continued engagement. What we have the opportunity to do tonight is to say we trust the team that has shown with their dedication, their commitment to the process, and that we trust that we can move there together. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm making this up as I go along. Be patient, okay? This is a time for discussion, for Q&A. And we got two pieces to this puzzle, which seems easy, just two pieces of the puzzle. But one of them involves Sarah and technology, which is something which is out of my bailiwick. What I would suggest is that we start, those of you who are streaming in this, we'll get to you in a minute. What you can do is you can listen to Sarah as she describes the process.
If you're online and you know you have a question that you'd like to ask, I ask you to log in using the button on the upper right-hand side of your screen and type the question in the general chat, and I will be monitoring the chat and ask the questions when we turn from in-person questions to online questions.
Thank you, Sarah. What I would like to do, Rosemary and Sarah, you've done such a wonderful job presenting this. I can't imagine that there would be questions, but knowing this congregation, there will be questions. So what I would like you to do, each of you, is to take one of these microphones and go up and down the aisles, and as there are questions, people will ask the question, and then whichever one of you is on that side of the house will answer it. Okay, got it? Right. Cool.
I see a question.
This is a simple one, but what does Magic Garden and Beehive do during the construction?
The same thing we do. Cry? No. We believe we can phase the construction to sort of minimize the impact. We've had initial conversations with the town of Lincoln. The Bemis property sort of a fortuitous timing sequence. It looks like that use of that space will be moving into the new community center just about the time that we would be needing to flow into that space. We have made the commitment to those two tenants that we would work in partnership with them, not shove them out on the street, and figure out a way that we can all problem solve together. Thank you.
Other questions?
Ginny.
If you would go back to the floor plan, can you go back and yes.
The main floor,
Yes,
Jenny?
yes, that's fine.
Okay, great.
The church kitchen has always had an open window to the Donaldson room. When that was questioned at a previous meeting, you said that the Donaldson room use will be put into the gathering flex use under the, but how will the coordination with the kitchen take place when that open counter size window between the kitchen and the Donaldson room is no longer there?
That's a great question. We don't
Would you
have
like
the
to
answer
join the
that.
committee to discern the kitchen use?
You know, some of those kinds of details in our culture, you know, our culture, our way of doing things, some things will be impacted, there's no question. I think though, we hope, we believe that there's a good answer inside of design. That design, what's the phrase that we use, that architecture shapes community?
Creates community.
And we think that interior design will help shape how we use this space. It's not a small thing, it's a big thing. It's just not, we're not there yet, we're still at the concept. But it's good to have these questions now so that we are sure to be adding them into our thinking. Thank you so much.
I'm wondering what's going to happen to the organ. Well, sometime of the many years I've been here, a good deal of money was spent refurbishing that antique organ, and we've never used it. So I'm wondering what's happening to it.
We actually, I believe, refurbished this organ. Okay, we should look into that, and what we know is that the condition, what we've been told, what I understand, is that the condition of that organ is such that it would require another significant upgrade to use, to be useful, and that the research that was done on this particular organ compared to this organ, which was worth the investment, that organ is not necessarily worth the investment.
I just wondered if you're selling it or something.
We will make an effort to sell it. However, we do love those pipes and are wondering how they might be reincorporated into the space as an architectural or an artistic detail. And it's a detail that we have to get into. But we won't be keeping it because this is the space that the organ currently inhabits, and our thing that we're trying to gain is flows that brings us from the auditorium into this new community space, to this new hub. So, thank you. Sarah.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it. Can you go back to the photograph of the church from the south?
Was that the agenda slide? Let's find out. Well, I have the daytime one.
Yeah,
This?
that one.
Okay.
So do we lose that beautiful tree to the left, that huge tree?
The Norway maple?
Yeah.
So a Norway maple is, we probably will lose it. I will say that we are committed to creating replacement shade and shelter. A Norway maple is a tree that you actually cannot plant anymore because of its invasive properties. It sucks up the water, it doesn't house the insects, which then don't feed the birds. So as trees go, and we recognize that it is a lovely element of the landscape. So the landscape plan needs to recreate that benefit, but it won't, I don't think, unless something changes, involved keeping that tree. And maybe I have to turn to my landscape friend, Ken Bassett, but anyway. Well said. Oh, he gave me a thumbs up. That's great. Thank you, Sarah. I know we all love that tree.
And it also has a lifespan. A Norway maple has a lifespan, and at some point, it will start dropping limbs because it's not something like some great oak in England that's going to live 150 years. That's not what Norway maples do.
One other thing I want to lift up is that although that is a beautiful shade element, one of its downsides is that when you come out this entrance, which is something that will be activated so that when we worship in the auditorium, we can flow out into this upper south lawn. When you do that, you will actually be able to see the children in the playground, so you enhance a visual connection across the generations, which we think is a little bit of an offsetting benefit. Sarah Kay has something online.
Is there a plan to upgrade the seating in the auditorium? I hope so.
Question answered. We hope so.
That was the question. Yes.
Yes, I'm wondering whether there's, or what the financial landscape for this particular conceptual design looks like, and what the status of our capital account is. Can you provide some information around that?
That's a setup. We actually didn't get to that part. We should get to that part, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good question. It's an important question, and it's a key question to tonight.
In terms of the balance in our capital reserve fund, I'm looking at our incoming and our current treasurers. Number, please. Yeah, Chris, what do you got?
Sorry.
The current balance of our capital reserve fund, which has been, you want to stand up and answer? That'd be great, thanks.
I'll speak and look at John in his San Diego shirt. So the capital fund, which we raised back in 2010, 11, 12, when we raised money to build the Stearns Room, has been depleted. The way that we have managed to keep money there a little bit is that in those years when we haven't spent our full operating budget, so we raise a certain amount of money, think we're going to spend this much, and people are thrifty and we spend a little bit less, we've taken the extra and put it in the capital fund to pay for stuff that we really needed to do. So there's really nothing left but our savings over the years. There's less than $100,000 there at this point, and it's all from past savings. And I think what it's meant is that we've done a really good job of spending on the important upkeep things, but some of the things that kind of would make it look a little nice around here have not been done.
Thank you. So in terms of what does the project cost look like at this point, these are conceptual numbers. The building renovation and upgrades are estimated at $5.5 million. I want to highlight that a significant portion of that relates to insulation, windows, siding, those green investments. The landscape improvements are estimated at $1.5 million. There's not a lot of new grading that needs to happen, but we want to do the planting well and create something that is beautiful and low maintenance. The capital fund replenishment, what the finance committee has requested that this project raise is $0.75 million. So our total raise at this point is $7.75 million. It's not a small number, in case anyone wondered how I felt about that. Lynn, you have a question? Can I finish my slide before? Yeah. So I just want to be clear, as we wanted to contextualize this, we did have conversations with a handful of parishioners about the project. Parishioners who we know are aligned with making this building that we're talking about, support what we are trying to do. To be clear, this is not about a fancy building, right? This is making our building align with our values of green, of access, of welcome, of inspiration and connection to the nature around us. So folks who are sort of feeling a commitment around that have already committed 28% of the anticipated costs. And just as you think about, right, like, hello, thank you, let's clap for that. And also to contextualize when you gasp at that number, to recognize that we would be looking to raise that money over a number of years. We wouldn't be looking to do it all in one hot minute. So it's just important to recognize. Lynn, you had a question?
Thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. So with the capital fund replenishment, do you anticipate that being enough for us to wait another 10 years for another capital fund? So is that about, $75,000 a year per year for 10 years?
The incoming treasurer says 10 to 15. Is that what you're telling me?
The outgoing treasurer says the same thing.
Well, thank God there's alignment. Whew. Thank you, Lynn.
I'm just trying to put this in perspective. Do we know how much the Stearns Room change cost?
Yeah, in that project, we raised $2.2 million, of which we set aside about $400,000 for our capital reserve.
Thank you.
Someone who's good at that inflation number, just like in 2025 dollars, that would be.
Rosemary, hold on a second. Crystal's got the mic.
Suppose we raise all the money. How soon would you start building?
Great question. So the timeline, if all goes so smoothly, is anything going smoothly in the world right now? If all goes smoothly, we would move into quiet fundraising immediately. We would have a sense of where we are, and we would be back to the congregation with a refined plan and updated fundraising in somewhere in the January timeframe. We would move into a public face of the fundraising where we would start to collect the money and take it out to the wider town. We do believe there's opportunities to raise funds from the wider community. And we would be looking at breaking ground sometime in the fall, probably, of 2026, if all goes like miracles.
We have a question back here.
I think that my question has already been asked, but I'm going to ask.
Don't ask it again.
Yeah, I'm going to. At the fall of 26, you're saying you think you might break ground?
That would be the soonest that we would be in a position to break ground.
So, again, do you need you certainly don't need the capital fund replenishment money to do construction.
Right. So in terms of the timing of what the cash flow, is that kind of what you're thinking about, is how much cash do we need when? So we are in conversation with a family foundation that is in a position to sort of low interest float the cash if we need that. So if we needed more time to collect, because certainly the capital reserve fund we wouldn't need right away. Some of the costs we don't need right away. So we have mechanisms to manage the cash flow.
So you got this family fund that's going to help the cash flow. Do we, when we get our money in, do we give it back to them, or is that a permanent gift?
No, well, it would be a loan. It would not be a gift. Yeah, thank you, Jane.
Sounds good to me.
Other questions? Susan and Gary. You guys decide who goes first.
I want to go back to the kitchen for a minute here, because thinking about our social mission, a commercial kitchen is a tremendous asset for the town. It is, aside from Codman Farm, I think it's the only one in town. There was going to be one in the community center, but that got pulled out. So preservation of that commercial kitchen, to me, is something that I think should be a priority, seeing the way it could serve the community. And I just want to know where it fits in the priorities, because I've built large commercial offices in many towns in the country, and there's always inflation. You're always making decisions on the margin about what we can give up and what we can't give up. And I would, well, like I said, I'd like to see a priority for the kitchen, but I also encourage you to think very hard about priorities, about if things don't come out exactly the way you want them to, that you've got a pretty good idea and you've discussed with the congregation about where you would pull back.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. I think that's, I hope that that's what we're signaling when we talk about the scope, and all of that will continue to evolve in conversation with the congregation. To pick up on the kitchen point in particular, we recognize that there are actually different perspectives on what the commercial kitchen priority is. We're not going to make that decision. That's going to be a congregational discernment process that is super important, because it could play all kinds of different roles in our congregational life.
We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but that was my question too, and I think it's a basic one. And I think what Gary just said, the conversation around the community center, where that was a big part of what people wanted, and it's very expensive, and it ended up being a warming kitchen. And so I think it's not something you wait until later to decide. If it's a priority, it's going to be really expensive. And looking at the floor plan, I see, I love all the changes you've made, by the way, since I last saw it in the outside, so many things. I just said, wow, look what they did. This is great. But I am worried that the kitchen still hasn't been decided.
Yeah.
And I think it's not just, I like that people have realized you need to put the elevator there for cost efficiency, et cetera. You've given it more space, but it hasn't really been thought where you take the trash, what happens about a delivery of food delivery, all those things. If that's going to be a priority, it's going to be expensive, but it's such a resource, not just for the town, but I'm thinking of all the groups that love to cook together, their special foods, and there's no place.
Right.
And this could be a tremendous mission for us, but we'd have to really do it now.
Yes. No, absolutely. And it needs to be something we fold in sooner. Jackie's got probably a follow-up on the kitchen, I'm thinking.
I'd hate to see us go backwards, because it took a lot to get that in. And actually the most expensive piece of it doesn't look like it's being moved.
That's
so
right.
That's actually good.
That's
They're
right.
moving some plumbing, but I would really go ditto on this, of trying to keep that if we can. Because otherwise you can't do anything open to the public except for boxed, catered things that are pre-approved. But I think you can do it. We really aren't using that little pop-through very much even now. It's all blocked and whatever. But if you can just move the sinks and plumbing and still make it a commercial kitchen, even if it's... What? It will. The sinks would move in that place.
The sinks actually have to move
they
over.
Have to move. There's
Yeah.
not enough room. So anyway, I echo that.
Great. I'm making some nominations for the Kitchen Discernment Committee live.
One more question. I am reminded of the old expression that a camel is a horse designed by a committee. As somebody who did management training for almost 40 years, I'm not half bad at adult learning theory, and I know that with grown-ups, the stamina span maxes out at 60 to 75 minutes. After
Are we
that,
there?
the lights are on, but nobody's home. So we're getting there, seeing as how this is not an official, formal meeting vote. We got room for one more question.
And I wanted to say, I'm so excited about the energy and the interest. I mean, with a social justice hat on, I think the kitchen is also of an interesting question for us to be considering. So let's keep those conversations going. This vote that we would have tonight is whether or not we should continue moving in this direction, and understanding that feedback, input, and possibly change of scope are in our future. But are we going someplace good?
Well, this will be quick. I'm just for the commercial kitchen too. And I think if we're raising money in the town, the commercial kitchen's very important. And will Meals on Wheels stay?
Meals on Wheels is moving to the community center.
I thought there wasn't going to be a kitchen there.
They have a catering kitchen, which is what they need.
Okay, thank you.
May we have a thank you for Rosemary and Sarah. Moving right along. I noticed that Bill Stacy nodded and smiled because as a physician, he knows what tissue necrosis is all about. And we will have fanny fatigue. Ruth Ann, you have the most incredible memory because you took me back to, I moved back to town in 1982. So that was 43 years ago. And it was probably 40 years ago. How many of us remember Maria Churchill? Okay. Maria Churchill could play the organ, as can our own Tom Milkey. We've learned out. We're going to come get you and have you do more, Tom, wherever you are. But Maria Churchill gave a concert on that organ up the hill sometime in the late 1970s. Tom Risser, when was your youngest child born? What year?
38 years ago.
Great. 1987. Okay. Because Lena and Maria were pregnant at the same time. And the question was, would Maria deliver while playing the organ up at the Stone Church? And no, that happened first. Then she played the organ. That was the last time, Ruth Ann, that I've heard that organ played. Sorry, Rob, you said?
Alice Daisy played it at a few services up there.
Okay, so it wasn't that long. There we go. There's an answer. All right. I'm not going to ask if anybody is ready for the question because it's not really a question, but it's a kind of sense. Remember I said the sense of the community. So yellow ballots are being passed out. There's a yes space and a no space. You can put a check mark or put an X in one of them. And Sarah is going to talk us through how those of us who are remote can. Sarah Kay. As soon as she returns. Yeah. Okay, great.
All right, so folks that are joining us online, you should be seeing the motion slide momentarily. I invite you to take a good look at that slide and read through it. And note that a yes vote indicates that the Opening Doors campaign should initiate quiet fundraising for this design direction, moving forward with constant refinement and project scope, design based on community feedback and fundraising results. And a no vote, FPL should only focus on minor refurbishments to the parish house, focusing our fundraising on replenishing the capital reserve fund. So folks that are online, that slide that you're seeing right now indicates the motion. You will see momentarily in the chat a poll that will go live, inviting you. The full text doesn't fit, there's a character limit, so take a good look at the slide to see what the motion is. And understand that the yes vote is to indicate moving forward, and the no vote stops this, this direction, and the focus moves to just replenishing the capital reserve fund. So that poll will pop up in the chat, and you'll select yes or no, and that will be an anonymous vote for folks that are online.
So you have your yellow ballot. When you've marked it, please fold it in half like this. Rosemary is going around with the official harumph ballot box, kind of, sort of.
Question for Sarah. How many people are online?
Sarah, how many people are online? 9 people. Okay. 9 devices. 9 devices. Okay, probably more people. Okay, do we have that side of the room?
Anyone still holding a ballot?
Okay, take 10. I would say smoke them if you got them, but you know, we're health conscious. So, and it's a wooden church. So take 10, relax, talk to your neighbors. I'm sure you can do that without further prompting. And we will be back as soon as we can with the total. Thank you very much for your patience.
For folks that are online, the poll is not in the general chat. The poll is under the poll tab on the right-hand side. So if you're online, look at the menu on the right-hand side of your screen. There is a button that when you hover over it, it says polls, and the icon looks like a graph, like a chart. So click on the polls button in the right-hand side of your screen.
Anybody want to go home besides me? Anybody getting tired of sitting here? All right. I'm going to turn the lights off in about 2 minutes. So if you want to stop talking and get out of here while the lights are on, this is the time to do it, he said softly. All right. We've counted all the votes. The percentage total voting yes was 95.5%. So that's roughly 2.5% voted no and 2.5% abstained. So whatever that is worth. No, it's, what was it, Jeannie? What was it? 89. Jeannie said it was an 89, it's 89. Okay, all right. What questions? Are there questions? I hope not. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please so signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Only under pain of death. All right. Thank you all. Bless you. Safe travels. We'll see you.